As the great Steve Brule once said, space, 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 space. Space, 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 space. Space. This video, as you see from the thumbnail and the title, it's all about space because we've got brand new information on Star Wars Outlaws in the stars. Stars is obviously an important part of this game, and it's one of the defining factors that makes Star Wars Outlaws stand out. The fact that you can go from planet side to outer space seamlessly. Incredibly impressive tech, but how much is actually out there? Well, today we found out quite a bit, and I'm excited to share it with all of you. So what's going on, everybody? It's Ghost Robo. I'm sorry that we're seeing the same gameplay over and over, but we got those 3 trailers. If you have any other ideas for what you'd like to see while I talk to you, or maybe just I don't know, maybe just listen to it like an audiobook so it don't even matter, but hopefully we get some new gameplay soon. This game is out in a few months. I would love to have some more footage to work with Ubisoft. Thank you very much. But we have a brand new article detailing all about outer space. And this is very interesting because we've heard a lot about Reputation, we've heard a lot about Wanted, we've heard a lot about the hideouts and the syndicates, but space is something that we've only seen and not really had much discussion on. Well, it sounds like space is more fully fleshed out than I expected, but they are using what could be described as a dangerous system that may make space feel less impressive than it is intended to be. And I'll get into that in a moment, but it's very Starfield. Let me know how you feel about space in Star Wars Outlaws in the comments down below. I feel like most of my gameplay is going to be on the ground, but we do now know that there are side quests, places to land, battles to fight, and sort of dynamic missions to occur as you pilot your Trailblazer through space. Now, they did not get to play this during the previews of the game. Nobody got to play or even really see much about space, so Ubisoft is keeping this pretty much under wraps. But Ubisoft does describe a outer space where there's a lot you can do. The big defining factor, though, is how you get from location to location. And they talked about how they didn't want you to just be going, right? They didn't want you to just have a bunch of empty space, feel like it was just pointless and meaningless. So they have employed a fast travel system where once you get to the edge of a planet's explorable area, you then hyperdrive into the orbit of your destination. And this sounds very familiar to me from playing Starfield, where space is huge, you can just fly into space, but when you want to actually get somewhere, you basically just fast travel. So they said this is problem solving for video games, basically. We wanted to have an orbit around it with lots of different points of interest, things to do, battles to get into, places to explore. So the orbits for each one of the moons or planets that we created had to be populated with lots of different things, and we didn't want to create endless space. So you hyperdrive from the orbit of a planet to the orbit of a planet. So all of the space areas that we have are full of things to do. Now, for this type of game, I think this might be the right choice. I just get a little bit of worried fingers because Starfield got so much flack. But Starfield also was trying to be a much more, that's a huge create your own character RPG, and there really wasn't a ton to do, I don't think, as much, whereas it seems like this game is going to be more involved. Now, obviously, it's not going to have more planets to explore, but the planets they do have are going to be very bespoke. They're very, very handcrafted. When we go to Tatooine or Kijimi or Akiva or Toshara, that is a space that has cities and different settlements and things that we can explore that were handcrafted by the designer. And they said that. Ubisoft said that, the creative director, that I think that's the play of fancy for the outlaw. It really is. When you think of what would I like to do as an outlaw in Star Wars, it is stealth, it is combat, it is fisticuffs, it is hanging out at the cantina and having choices, meaningful choices. As a scoundrel, as an outlaw, it is flying, it is jumping on your speeder and going from one settlement to another. It's all of those things. So it was important for us to have that ambition and push not just the technology, but also the design team to have all of those things at the highest possible quality levels. And he describes a situation where he was out there in orbit, right? And he got an emergency signal from a freighter that was being attacked. He hurried to their location to help them fight off the attackers. And then after he defeated the attackers and saved the freighter, he landed on a space station. He doesn't go into detail about how big the space stations are, and obviously they're going to be smaller than the cities, right? So if we look at some of the gameplay we have where we see Kay and Nyx kind of speeding around, the main city, and then going to a hideout, it's not going to be that big, right? Miragana is a large city on Toshara. It's not going to be that big. But he does say that there are things to do, including different vendors for trades and potentially some side quests. So you're definitely able to do space battles. You're going to be able to, escape from attackers, escape from syndicates chasing you, escape from the Empire chasing you. You are going to be able to find a side quest, and you are going to be able to react to different calls on your radio. They also say that you can get like some intel about somebody that maybe wants an item you have on a certain space station, and that sounds pretty darn cool. They talk about a scenario where you got on the Trailblazer, you go into orbit, leaving Toshara's orbit, and then do the hyperdrive fast travel to a different orbit where there's a space station where somebody was looking for an item that you have. And I think this kind of ties into the intel and rumor system from the syndicates. So maybe there's like a space station that you would think, oh, it's just out there. They have a shop on there, no big deal. But maybe we get intel from the Crimson Dawn or the Ashiga clan that, hey, like they're really looking for this blaster mod that you have, or they're really looking for this, I don't know, this crystal that you found. And so if you go there, you can make a trade that's going to be well worth your time. And I do hope that the space is not just a place to go fool around, but that there are missions that really help boost exploration and boost your character. I would not doubt that there are going to be some like main critical path space missions. I do believe there will be some battles and some escapes where we do have to go into space, like we absolutely have to. And obviously it is your vehicle, literally, to transition from planet to planet. But having space be another sort of space to explore, like, right, another play box, another sandbox, another thing that we can go out there and find maybe some random events. It sounds like with these calls, the emergency signals, that like we are going to be able to have some dynamic events occur where, okay, we think we're just going into orbit and we think we're just trying to get from, Toshara to Kajimi, but on the way, someone's like, dude, there are 4 ties on my back. Can you please help me? And I think this really just evolves Star Wars Outlaws into such a more dynamic world and such a more fully fleshed out game, because now we're talking about, we have sneaking, right? We have the whole story. We have gunplay. We have the Nick stuff. We have all the hideouts with, rumors, intel, sabacc, and we also have space. And space isn't just to travel from one planet to another, and it's not just like, oh, a mini-game, quick-time event diversion as we move from one level to the next. It is a truly explorable area where they have handcrafted and tried to pack in to make each area of space enjoyable. Now, how well the fast travel actually works, TBD. Hopefully it's very quick, hopefully it's seamless, hopefully the hyperdrive animation is not one that gets boring quickly. But it does make more sense of how they're able to go from riding the speeder, hopping in the Trailblazer, leaving the planet surface and going straight into space, because the space that you're entering is very contained. You might as well just think of it as another vertical layer of the level, right? Like it's like, okay, we have the ground level and then we have the upstairs, which is just the space, because it is the orbit around the planet or the orbit around the moon where they limit you from leaving, right? We can't just go from Toshara to Kajimi. That is not something that can happen. And maybe that does put a bit of a damper on the imagination that we had when we first saw Kay take off into the stars. Like, okay, you can just go anywhere and everywhere. This is going to be one of the biggest, craziest open worlds ever. It is going to be more confined for sure, but I actually think that's a good thing. And despite sort of my trepidation surrounding Starfield, I like that they emphasized making sure your time and space was well rewarded. I think one of the worst things an open world game can do is give you places to explore that then have nothing for you to see, nothing of value. Like just going to space to get another shop that maybe has a very similar inventory. That's the word I was looking for. A very similar inventory to what you find on the ground is such a boring waste of time. But knowing that you could get called into a battle, knowing that somebody might be searching for an item you have, knowing that there could be a side quest that provides you with a valuable upgrade, or connects the syndicates, or maybe even some of the syndicates are up in space and it allows you to take a different angle in trying to either woo them, win the reputation, or absolutely crumble their reputation. They didn't show any footage. They didn't give any new hands-on time, so nobody has gotten to control the Trailblazer yet. They do say that spaceflight is accessible, fun, and action-packed as possible. The controls are extremely easy to get into. There's always something to do. It's fast to travel. You can hyperdrive at any moment, and there's combat, of course, both on an intimate dogfight scale, but also on an epic scale too. So that definitely tells me there are going to be some story-based combat missions. I bet at some point we're going to piss off a fleet, we're going to piss off the Empire, and we are going to be duking it out in a very, very intense and huge battle. A Star Destroyer would not surprise me. I think that's probably the most likely. And I do wonder if, in the same way that the syndicates can assist you on the ground, can the syndicates assist you in space? If I'm all of a sudden going up against a a high level ship that I cannot deal with myself? Can I get some Hutt cartel vehicles to fly out and try and distract? I think that's going to be definitely a big moment in the story. At some point there will be a big ship battle, and maybe one of the factions that you are friendly with comes to your aid and helps take down a much larger ship that you didn't think you could take down. And it makes sense because we know that, the scoundrel that we have in our eyes from Star Wars is Han Solo. He's a very good pilot. He's very good with the Falcon, and he makes things happen that probably shouldn't happen more realistically. I hope that Kay, as she evolves as a bounty hunter slash outlaw slash whatever you want to call her, that she can have an ability to be as crazy cool as Han. And I hope that she's able to make some friends with some pretty cool people, because that's a big part of Han's arsenal, is those that he flies with. And no offense to Nix, but I don't think Nix is as powerful as Chewie. So hopefully either ND5 can take up the Chewie role, or maybe there's more characters that we meet along the way. Either way, I do think space is sounding good. And while I was very worried about space, because typically I'm not much of like a flyer, I don't really like piloting ships in video games all that much. The fact that there are places to land, the fact that it is trying to be a curated space, the fact that there are side quests and dynamic encounters, I'm on board and I like this, and I think it just further makes Star Wars Outlaws an even more exciting proposition, and a game that definitely should be at the top of our radar. Whatever you think about the Jabba's Gambit mission, whatever you think about the $130 edition, this game from Massive Entertainment sounds like it could redefine what we know a Star Wars game to be, and redefine a single-player open-world game, and how those two genres can merge in an excellent narrative-driven fashion. So I am really excited to see finally some space gameplay, and to see this all in action, and hopefully it lives up to our expectations. But in the meantime, everybody, let me know how you think space is sounding, and if you're feeling queasy or excited about them really kind of packing the spaces in, but you have to fast travel, and space is not one congruous area. Even the solar system is not one congruous. It's all about hyperdriving, and you can do that at any point. So you don't have to fly that much. You can fast travel if you want. You can fly in battle if you'd like. What do you think? How are you feeling? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Drink some hot chocolate, and we will see you all later.